invite the speaker onto the exactly 12 million is absolutely insane. So cool. Let's get Apak here. Super. Thank you so much, Apaksh. Welcome to InfluencerCon. We are super happy that you're here.
Harsha, thanks for having me here. How are you doing?
Good. How about you?
Very well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, audience are excited. Like, as I was saying to you earlier, that 12 million number is just stuck there. Like, brilliant. So I won't take up any more time. It's all yours. I'll be right there whenever you want any polls to be activated. Just call out Harsha and ask for the poll. We'll make it active.
Done. Perfect. Thanks, Harsha. Thanks for handing it over to me, and thank you so much. I'll take it forward from here.
Super.
Hi, everyone. I hope I'm audible, and thank you so much for coming in. What I'll do is quickly introduce myself, post which I possibly have some ideas on how you could sort of grow in your journey to becoming an influencer. I'm sort of sitting in an outdoorsy environment, so excuse any background noises that you might hear. So I'm Apaksh. I'm the founder and CEO of One Impression. One Impression is essentially an influencer marketing platform. We are one of the largest in Asia. We work with over 200 plus brands ranging from Amazon, Nestle, Marico, Kama Ayurveda, Mamaearth, Plum Goodness, so on and so forth. In terms of number of countries, we're active in about 11 odd countries. So we work with influencers in the US, in New Zealand, in Australia, but largely predominantly in India. We have a network of about 14 million influencers globally. In India, that's about 2 million plus influencers. And we work with everyone on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, so on and so forth. The topic for today essentially is to help you guys become an influencer and to grow in your journeys, to find more success and to find it faster. I'm having been in the industry since over 3.5 years. I've sort of met every influencer who's large now when they were mostly starting out, and I've seen them grow from almost nobodies into becoming one of the largest names in India, and really finding success in what they do. I assume a lot of you are starting your journeys or have started them already and are somewhere in the middle, finding next steps as to how to find success. The definition of success for some of you will be to find fame. The definition for success for some of you will be to monetize it faster. I think becoming an influencer again, it's you're essentially becoming entrepreneurs in your own right. The journey to entrepreneurship isn't really the easiest, but there are always certain methodologies that you can follow that can help you accelerate, find your success there. What I'll do is try to talk about some of the points that really matter in you finding success in becoming an influencer, in becoming a recognized influencer, in becoming someone who brands really want to associate with, in becoming someone whose audiences really look up to you. So I think first let's really go and try and define what an influencer really means. I mean, it's a term that's recently come up in the last 2 or 3 years in India, possibly in the last 5 to 6 years around the world, a trend that's very recent. I think just to try and define it, becoming an influencer is about, so essentially all of us are influencing people in our personal networks, in our daily lives. Offline, we talk to our friends, we talk to our peers, everything that we talk about, everything that our friends hear, it's content. Content shared offline does not have reach at scale, and hence you are more of an offline influencer. The moment you try to disseminate information, knowledge, anything entertaining at scale on social media, makes you a social media influencer essentially. I think a lot of people confuse becoming an influencer with just getting more followers, but number of followers essentially isn't defining you as an influencer. An influencer will really have influence by their content on a large set of people. Your influence really defines whether you are an influencer or not. I think the first thing that you all need to understand hence is the kind of content that you can create. So step one to becoming an influencer is to define your niche. A lot of people I've met in the early stages are creating content that's sort of all over the place. So They're creating content that's lifestyle, mixing it with food, mixing it with beauty, mixing it with I don't know, like maybe gaming. So a lot of people that I've met are, if you go to their profiles, if you go to their YouTube pages, the content is sort of all over the place, and I can't really relate to the person in any one way. So as an influencer, the first thing you need to understand is, why should people see your content? Are you talking about fashion in a way that's very interesting? So Komal Pandey, for example, one of the biggest names in India, the kind of content she creates, the kind of the way in which she pulls off fashion, I think it inspires millions of people as to what they can do with fashion, the kind of things they can pull off, the kind of experiments they can do with fashion. And I think that expertise with fashion, and to be able to play with it in very unique, interesting ways, is what makes her an influencer there. And similarly, it's very important that you guys try and define whether you want to, add value in terms of telling people how to be a better fashion influencer, or you want to tell them how to travel better. So Savi and with Bruce passports, I think I know more than 10 of my own friends who've planned their honeymoons because Savi and Wid recommended one of the destinations. And now that is a real influencer, because their recommendation means a lot of things to a lot of people. They're actually planning some of the most important events of their life basis what Savi and Wid are recommending to them. So I think the first, like I said, the first thing is to be able to try and define your niche. It could be fashion, it could be gaming. Gaming is one of the hottest categories that's coming up. So if you're a gamer, it's a massive industry. Beauty. So I mean, all of you see beauty brands talking, influencers talking about beauty brands all the time around the social media platform. So I think it's very, very, very important for you to be able to define that niche, find where you're good. Are you an expert in beauty? So I think it's a good idea to create content in beauty. If you're an expert in fashion, go about it. If you're an expert in gaming, go about it. If you don't know, then probably experiment early on, try and talk to your friends what you're really good at. And as soon as something starts clicking for you and you can recognize that, I think that's step one into becoming, a successful influencerpreneur. Step two is really understanding the platform that you want to go after. So Instagram and YouTube and Pinterest, and there are a bunch of new platforms out there. Instagram works very, very differently as opposed to how YouTube works. The kind of commitment and effort that an Instagram needs is very different than what a YouTube needs. So, for example, some of you might be in jobs and you will possibly only have limited time in your lives. So YouTube in general as a platform demands a lot more commitment than what Instagram demands. There are bunch of short video platforms ranging from ShareChat, Josh, Moat. There was TikTok, which was massive. But then there are a lot of new age platforms right now to replace that. So if you're active on those platforms, they require a lot lesser commitment from you, given that it's short form content, it's very quick, it's very fast, it gets a lot of reach, and it's a very different way of engaging with your audiences. So I think it's very important that you try and define the kind of platform you want to go after. So Instagram, for example, it's you can create photos, you can create reels, you can create IGTV videos. There are a bunch of options of the kind of content you can create. Different forms of content hence require different kind of commitment and different kind of effort. So images, for example, I only post images because I personally am not so comfortable with videos so far, which is a little weird given that I'm in the influencer marketing community. But yeah, I'm still learning. But yes, I think it's very important that you understand the type of content that you want to then create. A lot of people are not, I've not really yet made it to speaking very effectively on social media. They're shy of creating videos there. So it's a good start that you go about creating pictures, try and learn how social media works. Pictures don't really take a lot of commitment, don't really take as much as an effort that a video would require you to take, and hence you could start there. If you're going after YouTube is long form content, so any video on YouTube would ideally be 3 to 4 minutes at least, and then it could range up to 20, 30, 40 minutes, maybe to an hour. And it requires a lot more thinking, a lot more in-depth research on what you're going to talk about. It's a lot more effort to create a YouTube video. It requires more people, it requires more editing, it requires more thinking. It of course takes longer also in terms of, for you guys to establish your reach. And hence yeah. So I think it's very, very important that you find your cat niche, that you find your platform, and then you club it with the right form of content. So if you're a gaming influencer, pictures isn't really the thing for you. You could either be, you would ideally be on YouTube. Instagram also you could explore, but it's not really a platform for gaming influencers at large. If you're a beauty influencer, you could be on Instagram or you could be on YouTube. Instagram pictures won't really do the magic for you, uh, given that most of the people want to understand how you create different looks or how you use different products in beauty. So you'd essentially have to go with videos. It could be two kinds of videos. It could be Instagram videos where you're actually doing, the makeup and showing people how to, you add some music to it, you show how you create that, the makeup, the look, whatever you're creating, but you don't talk to the audience because a lot of people are not comfortable talking to the audience. Versus you go to YouTube, you're doing product reviews, you're telling people what works, how it affected your skin, whether the product is nice, whether it's not nice. And you need to be able to add enough information into your content, enough unique information into your content, that the audiences are genuinely interested in coming and talking to you, in genuinely interested in engaging with you. So one of the things, as one impression, what we do for brands. So given that we have over 2 million influencers in India, it's a huge challenge for brands to be able to understand who to work with, why to work with them, what is the, why are we going after a certain influencer, why are we paying them at all. The job that we do as mediators for them is to be able to identify those people who are right for the brand, who will add value to the brand, who have audiences that are trustworthy. We can't recommend influencers to brands that only have a high reach but have no trust amongst their community. So trust only establishes once you actually give them information, content, something that the audience finds very, very valuable to them. And hence uh, and hence it's very important that you share content that's interesting, that's valuable. I think one of the traps that most influencers, most creators at their early ages have these questions: whether should we buy followers, should we do like for like. All of those things that you do to grow your following, companies like us can detect those things. It takes you really, really far from being able to grow in your careers there. So I think it's a definite full stop. You should not try and go after any products, apps, any communities that tell you to do like for like, that tell you to do follow for follow, that tell you to do buy followers. I think those are things that really stop you in your career. And as companies like us, we can look into your data from very early on, and we can tell brands that, hey, this influencer has got their audience, this influencer does not have credible audience, this influencer has audience in India or does not have audience in India. So those kind of things I'd really recommend everyone to sort of shy away from. But as long as you're not engaging in any of those interesting activities, uh, as long as you find your niche, you find the kind of the platform you want to go on, and the kind of content that you're comfortable with creating, I think the first level of you trying to decide where to take your journey, the direction of you growing into a Komal Pandey or a beer biceps or a third influencer, whoever you want to become, is sort of decided. The next steps are all about taking that journey, executing that journey. But the first level, as to the direction, these are the three parameters that largely define the direction, basis your expertise, basis your the availability of time and resources at hand. The second step, of course, is to now really grow that influence, right? Is to be able to actually become an influencer on these platforms. I think, and there are so many tools out there today uh, that help you understand what are the right times when you should post, what are the right forms of content that you should be creating, what are the right days to be posting. So there are different. So if you're a gaming influencer, weekends are really, really good because people in general are very free on a weekend, so they'd actually come and see your content on a weekend. They look forward to it, versus if you post it on a day when everyone in the world is working very hard. As a gaming influencer, you might not find as much success. So depending on the category and the platform, you need to define when you need to post, how much you need to post. So one of the biggest questions I've seen influencers have is the frequency at which they should post content. So Instagram, for example, given it takes a lot less commitment, and as a platform it's generally short form, quick consumption content. So everybody on Instagram is not coming to take information, they are essentially coming to get entertained, quickly see information, and move on to a lot more content. So in Instagram you really grow when you create a lot of content. So if you're trying to become an Instagram influencer, I'd recommend that you post at least 3 times a week. If you can create videos, that's the best. Videos work a lot better as opposed to photos. I think reels have also really picked up. So if some of you are trying to create short form content on Instagram or on any other platform, even if it's Snapchat or Reposo, I think it's a great idea to go after short form content, given the kind of rate at which the consumption for short form content has increased. I'd definitely recommend that photos is probably not the best idea for most of you if you're starting out today. Photos isn't really something that most of the people are looking forward to these days, given the way videos have really taken over engagement amongst audiences. But yeah, if you can, if you're on Instagram, I'd recommend posting 3 to 5 times a week. Understanding the times at which you post. So for some of you, content during the day works really well. For some of you, content during the night would work really well. So I think you need to play around, use some external tools which can really tell you the kind of content that's working for you. So there are a bunch of tools that will tell you, hey, your content works best on Wednesday, carousels work best for you, these are the top 3 posts that work best for you. So I think that level of information is very critical for you to become a successful influencer. People who are not really using any data or any science to understand what is working and what is not working and are just sort of shooting in the air, I don't think so. They have a long way to go, given they're really haphazard and all over the place. If you're on YouTube, I think one day, once a week is also a very, very good number. YouTube is definitely a lot more expensive in terms of content creation and takes a lot more effort there, and hence even once a week, is a very, very decent frequency at which you're posting. I think it's very important to get your bio, your description, your captions right, because if you don't, so a lot of times companies like us are finding you given the kind of keywords you have in your descriptions. So if you haven't added beauty in your description and you are a beauty influencer, there's a high chance we won't even find you. Or if you've not added certain keywords in your bio, we might not find you. Or if you're not posting at a certain frequency. So a lot of times we do not select influencers in certain campaigns because they're not active during the last month. So while they might have followers, but their engagement is not enough. So posting, you can't just go about and post like randomly on one day 10 content pieces and then disappear for a week. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be in a certain format where people know that, hey, when I go in the evening, I can expect content from a Komal Pandey coming out. I can expect a YouTube video from a beer biceps coming out. I can expect this person to do that. You need to develop a habit of your content amongst your audiences. I think another few things that you can really do, in your journey to start growing is to collaborate. So early on, I think one of the biggest challenge creators have is that they don't get paid. Money is a problem. Most of the people will reach out to you, brand agencies, asking you for barters because you do not have the kind of reach or scale at which people would be willing to pay. But I think you should take those barter campaigns or those opportunities coming your way, because you start to learn as to how different companies work. You start to learn how brands send you brief. You start to learn how to deliver to a brand, what are the brand's expectations. But it's a good idea to start early on. Like I said, given that you'll have limited resources in trying to grow there, one of the good ideas is to collaborate amongst creators. So in fact, One Impression is working with another product. We've launched another product in collaboration with a company. The product is called Chiral. Chiral is essentially helping influencers collaborate amongst themselves. So pretty much like a Bumble, but for influencers to come meet each other and collaborate. The idea is that you'd have about a reach of 10,000 people, 50,000 people. Another person would also have that reach. So being able to share each stories of each other with each other's audiences, and maybe 10 of you can do that with each other. I think it's a great way to, collaborate and find success. So even as entrepreneurs, like the way I found success is that some of my friends early on, some of our clients early on, had introduced us to other clients, and one connected, the top first 10 clients essentially made way for us to the next 50. And hence it's really, really important that, as influencers, you don't see yourselves competing with each other, where you're trying to worry about, hey, the other person's going to steal my follower, or, I don't want the other person to become as famous. I think the way to find success is to collaborate. When all of you grow is when you really, really grow. If you're the only one growing, it's not. If you don't know people who are also growing with you, you're definitely not in the right kind of company. So it's very important that you collaborate with everyone, that you tell your audiences stories of your friends, that you ask your friends to share your story. And by story, I don't mean an Instagram story. I mean your story as an influencer, as to where you are, the kind of content and what you're doing. So I think it really helps accelerate your growth there. The other thing that you should also try and do is to be able to share resources. So a lot of times you might not have the resources to create, to hire a top photographer, to hire a top videographer, to hire, a bunch of things. So if you're, say, trying to get certain kind of resources, it's very important that you buy them and maybe share it with 5 friends of yours who are also influencers. This might be very, very helpful for you all to save cost. Maybe a camera, maybe a photographer can maybe, do a photo shoot together for you, so on and so forth. If you have a location that you have access to, you can try and give access to other influencers for the location, and try and get access to locations from other influencers. But sharing is caring. I think that sort of is a statement that does not, that really, really goes here, and that's not really something we should ignore. I think most of the top influencers, if you'd see, they're all friends amongst each other. The idea that they're friends amongst each other, they're friends with each other, that they started early on, that they've all grown, is very exciting to most of their audiences. That, hey, how a Kusha Kapila is friends with a Dolly Singh, and how a Dolly Singh is a friend with a Komal Pandey. I think a lot of people are really excited by seeing that kind of relationships exist there. And those relationships started early on, when they were smaller, when they started to collaborate with each other. And those are the kind of things you should try. Uh, I think what's also very exciting for audiences to see is content that's collaborative. So if we love movies where 2 top actors or 3 top actors, or, bunch of top actors and actresses are in the same movie. We talk about, hey, we have Salman Khan, we have, Hrithik Roshan, we've this ABCD coming into the movie, and we get all hyped about it. I think in a very similar way, influencers can create their hype for their content by collaborating with other influencers. So most of you create content that's singular in nature, so you're only talking about yourself all the time. While it's a nice thing to do, it's always a nice touch to be able to provide diversity in your content. So maybe if you're a beauty influencer, it's a good idea that you can create a video with another beauty influencer talking about, debating on a certain topic, or debating on a certain product, or debating on the regime in which you use the product, but collaborating in a video and releasing it. I think it creates a lot of excitement amongst both of your audiences, and it also sort of sets you apart from most other influencers who are only talking about themselves all the time. It's very, it's very exciting for audiences to see multiple famous names or multiple people they relate with in the same content pieces. And I think I'd strongly recommend that you collaborate, that you share in every way. So you collaborate your resources, you give each other shout outs, you create content that's also, sort of collaborative in nature, and post videos, post photos where, some of you exist together. You can share locations and resources in terms of cameras to save cost. And you should take up opportunities that come up your way early on, to sort of try and get onto the journey and understand how content creation happens, how brands expect you, what brands expect you to do. And I think that will take me to my sort of last point in general, which is, how do you monetize? I think each influencer wants to, all of us, want to sort of take this journey in the first place, because we see that while we can also become famous, it also means that we can make a living out of it. We can really earn money. And I'm also quite sure that most of you get questioned a lot at home, where parents don't really understand that how, by posting on Instagram or posting on YouTube. How do you make a living out of it? Why don't you get a job, or why don't you start a business? But I think becoming an influencer is possibly one of the biggest change that the world is going to see in the next decade. I think it's entrepreneurship defined in a new way. It's entrepreneurship, where you can make a living out of it, a career out of it. It's not just about fame; it's about adding value to a lot of people's lives. Which again, brings me to my last point on how do you monetize your influence. So as you start taking that journey to growth, as you start climbing up the ladder from, say, a reach of 10,000 people to a reach of 50,000 people to a reach of 500,000 people, you'd see that a lot of brands will start coming your way, a lot of opportunities will start coming your way. And I think most people, when these opportunities come your way, I think this is a critical point where you make or break your careers. A lot of people, in the rush of making that money, uh, go take really bad decisions that really sort of hamper their careers in terms of becoming a successful influencer, and really cap them in terms of growth, and most of them in fact die out very very soon. So what happens is, as you start growing into that reach, right, into as more people start to look up to you, start to trust you, start to see you, that's why they're following you. A lot of brands will start reaching out to you, asking to do campaign A, campaign B, campaign C. So all sorts of brands, and I think it's important that you choose very wisely, one, the kind of brands you work with, two, the kind of content you create. So it's very important for you to not forget that what made you famous, what made your influence happen in the first place. A lot of influencers, what they do is they talk about so many brands all the time, that to some extent the audiences completely lose trust from the influencer, because they're just selling whatever the brand wants. I think it's very important that, if you're a beauty influencer again, or if you're a gaming influencer, that you really stick to authenticity. I think your trust is again what makes you an influencer. I can tell you that I only know about a few thousand people, and I do not influence like a million people, but those thousand people really trust my word, and I think that is what has made one impression sort of work for us, because that influence on those thousand people is very very strong. That trust is what really works, and I've seen most of the influencers go wrong here. They'd essentially start talking about anything and everything on the face of the planet, and they'd not have any authenticity of their own added into it. So again, coming back to the point, that when you start taking that journey of growth, it's very important for you to choose what you talk about with each brand. It's very important for you to understand at what rate or frequency you really talk or you really post. And yeah, and for you to make sure that at any point of time, no matter whether you're collaborating more with brands or less with brands, you choose to maintain that authenticity in your content, that will differentiate you from everything else, everyone else in the influencer journey. Guys, give me 1 second. I think I'm having a troubled internet.
Hi guys, hope you're loving the session. Give some thumbs up if you're excited with what's going on. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let's wait for Apex to connect back. Meantime, you can drop your questions on the questions box and put it in that discussion tab. Whatever questions you have, he'll pick it up at the end of the session.
Hello.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, Apex.
Hi. Sorry, guys. I think I lost my Wi-Fi.
All yours.
Hanji. So yeah, just getting back to where I was, guys. Yeah. So it's very important. I was saying, for you to understand the kind of brands you work with, what you talk about. Now coming to how you really find brands. I think a lot of influencers are curious about, do I go to brands? Do brands come to me? How does it work? So I think it happens in all ways. There are multiple channels of you collaborating with brands. I think as you start in your journey of gaining more followers and growing, a lot of brands will come to you. A lot of brands will find you. They will Instagram DM you. They will they will message you. I think it's very important for you to have a very clear point of approach. So do not miss adding an email where people can reach out to you. A lot of brands will start sending you messages on your Instagram DMs, for example. So make it a point that you respond to those people as they reach out to you. So you aren't seen by most companies as somebody who's unresponsive. I think one of the things that companies like us hate, or any brand hates, are influencers who are unresponsive, because at the end of the day we want to collaborate with them for certain kind of campaigns that we have in mind. And if somebody who we are working with is not responsive, does not reply on email for days, does not reply in text for days, because we see this trend amongst hundreds of influencers, we try not to reach out to them at all again, and not to work with them, because we don't know when a brand wants something to happen, when we reach out to the influencer, will the influencer respond to us or not? So making sure that you're extremely reachable, that you're extremely fast in responding is very important, and you also have a very clearly defined point of approach. So have your bios sorted, have your description sorted, have your email ID very clearly mentioned, or if somebody is managing you as you grow, have the email ID very very clearly mentioned, and make it a point that everything is being responded to properly, in the fastest way possible. Now, the other way also that a lot of influencers work they is that they will partner with a lot of agencies. So a lot of influencers that we work with, they'd essentially work with us and maybe one or two other agencies or platforms, and they'd get consistent massive business out of us, because we'd have those working relationships with those influencers, where we as a company mediate for 200 plus brands, and then we go to our set defined of 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, 100, whatever those numbers are, influencers, where we go back to them again and again with new campaigns that we have in our kitty. And that sort of, so for a lot of large influencers that you see on social media, some of them have earned between 10 lakhs a year to more than, like, one of the highest paid influencer by one impression so far has earned over 1.4 crores a year. So I think that's a very beautiful way for you to grow, that you reach out to agencies, partner with them, make sure that those agencies or partners are very very happy with you, and they'd source business for you from bunch of brands, and eventually work with you. I think the other way, of course, is that a lot of brands will parallelly reach out to you, especially a lot of new brands that they're just starting out. Typically those brands don't really afford agencies like us or any other, and hence they typically prefer to have in-house teams and reach out to influencers. I think it's a very good idea for you to also start working with those brands and start supporting them. So even if you say charge X amount of rupees, I think it's a great gesture when influencers work for new age brands for much lesser, or maybe sometimes for free, because you believe in the brand. And just like who's growing as an influencer, those brands are also trying to grow. So we've seen brands who used to spend, say, 1 lakh in a year with us, or 1 lakh in a month with us, spending more than 50 lakhs a month with us. And we've seen those brands becoming from nobodies to somebody who's really recognized in the market. And hence, what I'd also recommend everyone here to do is to not ignore small brands who are, say, not paying you, or who do not afford it. I think it's very important for you to be a humble influencer, for you to come across as somebody who really cares about the brands first, and not just purely about money. Money is definitely important. You should charge the brands who can afford it. But sometimes if you come across a brand which you believe in, which you think is great, wants to do a collaboration, maybe can't pay you fully, I think you should try and consider it, if not fully agree to it every time. And if you like it, maybe go about it, because when those brands grow, they will come and partner with you as an advocate in a way that you didn't foresee, and possibly make you a lot more money in the long run than you could make immediately. I think again, so coming back to my first point on what the channels are. So the channel is you going to the brand coming to you, or agencies coming to you, or you going to the agency. I think the first two things that will happen as you grow in your influences, agencies will come to you and brands will come to you. I think those opportunities you should take up. Make sure that you take them very very seriously. Make sure that you respond very fast to them. Make sure that a lot of them will have high expectations in terms of content, in terms of the briefs they've given you. Make sure you abide by the kind of things, because the moment you're creating anything that's not in sync, one, with your profile, and in sync with the brief, it sort of becomes a hassle, and sometimes those partners might not want to work with you again and again. So make sure that you're maintaining your commitments, your relationships right with the agencies or brands. And I can tell you that you won't have to work too hard to get business. Most of the business will come your way because brands will love working with you, agencies will love working with you. Make sure that if you've committed a deadline, you sort of adhere to it, because we've seen brands really lose it when there's certain deadlines that are missed. And brands have a lot of stakes that they're counting on in terms of content creation, in terms of dependencies on when you guys are going live. The other part is you reaching out to agencies and you reaching out to brands. I think it's of course a great strategy. So if you don't see any inbound interest still coming your way, which ideally would not happen as you start to grow, it's a good idea to start reaching out to at least the top partners, top agencies typically are a better bet than brands, in the sense that they typically have hundreds of brands working with them, so they'll have one campaign or the other from one brand, the other for you. It will not be, it's very rare that you don't get any business from them. The other way is that you also start reaching out to brands. Typically when you reach out to brand, I think make sure that you have a very very sorted profile. A lot of influencers reach out to us in sort of very haphazard ways. They'll send their information which is cluttered all over the place. We don't understand what they want to say. So it's very important that you make a very good looking profile. You're an influencer, so your job is to make sure you create interesting content. So create a great profile, make sure it's very appealing, and send those profiles to brands, send those profiles to certain agencies. And I think business should sort of start rolling your way. But the one point I can tell you is, as long as you're creating great content, as long as you're as long as you're active about what you're creating, companies like us will find you. You don't need to really worry about that, because our job sitting in the middle is to make sure that we're finding the most interesting influencers for brands to collaborate with. Just make sure that you reply fast and you're approachable and you have a clear sense of approach there. I think more or less these are some of the talking points that I had today that I wanted to cover as to how you really try and become an influencer. I think right now as a company we've just launched something new called One Impression Academy. The goal of the academy is to help thousands of upcoming creators become famous faster, and to also help them make sure that they don't make those silly mistakes that sort of kill their careers into becoming an influencer. Yeah, in fact, we'd love to hear if some of you, I'd love to hear if some of you have any questions. I had some polls designed today. Harsha, would be great if you can quickly roll out those polls. I'd love to see, how if the audiences have figured out their niche and the platforms and the type of content they're creating.
Yeah, Paksh. All the three polls are live, guys. So you'll check on your right poll section. You'll see the three questions. Please opt in your answers. Even I'm doing the same. Oh, for the form of content, they use 44.44% of them do it through photos.
Okay.
And 33% of them do it through long term, and 22 through short long format videos, and 22 through short format videos.
Sorry, say that again, the last one.
44% of them do it through photos.
Correct.
They create photos. 33% of them create long format videos. 22% of them create short format videos.
Okay, great. I think my one recommendation would be to everyone who's creating a lot of pictures, that while pictures are great, if you're also not creating videos so far, I think you should, because a lot of brands are only looking to collaborate with influencers eventually who are creating videos, and videos do get more reach and engagement and can also convey more information to audiences that you cannot convey in a photo. There was a time people used to read captions. Today a lot less audiences read captions, and hence like videos are the best way to engage your audiences. So if you're not creating videos at all, my recommendation would be you should consider it, you should try it. There might be an initial barrier if you've never done it. It might be a little hard, But once you get started, you'll get a hang of it and you'll start enjoying it.
Awesome. Apash, there are some questions. If you can take, like, we have quick 4 minutes more for the session to end.
Correct.
So one question is from Madhurima, where she asks, how can one stand out and make more valuable content in today's times when beauty, fashion, and lifestyle niches are so saturated?
Yeah. So Madhurima, I think the one thing, so the one thing I'd want to tell you is fashion is not new, beauty is not new, lifestyle is not new. These have existed for centuries and centuries. Today, fashion has evolved because there have always been trendsetters who took it to the next level. Lifestyle has evolved because there have been trendsetters who took that aspiration to the next level, and beauty has evolved with the kind of products we have, with the kind of access we have to products today. So I think there is 100% never a limit, not today and possibly not in thousands of years to come, on what you can tell people around fashion, beauty. The topics around humanity have always been the same. It's been fashion, beauty, food, lifestyle, fitness, living. You can't take away those topics from humans. They will always talk about them. The question is whether you can innovate enough, whether you can think enough as to how you convey those messages, those trends to your audiences, and whether you're somebody who's following a trend set by larger influencers and then trying to be a part of it, or whether you're somebody who's setting a trend. Jim Sarab, for example, he's somebody who has a very, very clearly defined fashion, very, very bold and different. And a lot of us look up to him because it's unique. It's the way he does it. And I think there's never a limit to the kind of content you can create within these categories.
Amazing. So there is a question, interesting question from Somali. She's asking, like, how would the opportunities be for the food influencers post-COVID?
For the food, oh yeah, so food is great. Food is amazing as a category. I think food in general is one of again the most high engagement categories on all social media platforms. I think people the I think one important part of food is people just keep clicking pictures and sharing. I think pictures is great, but what people are looking for who are following you is recipes, maybe on how to do it, how to make that recipe, what stands out, or what are the kind of experiments they can do with different kind of items they have at home. So all of us love food, all of us want to make great dishes, whether most of us don't know how to create those food. So recipe content is great, or most of us don't know what we can do with lesser kind of products that we have at our home to make interesting kind of things out of it. So that kind of content will do great. Make sure it's videos. Pictures are nice, but videos do sort of better. So my strong recommendation would be that you also try out videos, or at least mix it up there.
Awesome. So we have just 1 minute, so I'll just quickly take the last question from Pratyasha Rai. Are brands looking for influencers in niches like productivity or personal growth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of my really close friends, Raj Shamani, I don't know if you've seen him. He's this influencer with over 250,000 odd followers. His content is all about business, personal growth, motivation, how to stay positive. I think it's growing tremendously. I think the way brand collaborate with them is different. So I wouldn't say that all brands are looking for it, but I think it's one of the newer categories that's upcoming. Influencer marketing in general is also very, very new, and hence different brands have started to explore categories that are not directly relevant to them. So sometimes beauty influencers will start to work with with categories like food, for example. While they are being a beauty brand, they still work with food because there is a resonance there. So you'll see a lot of businesses that start to work with it. So I know Raymond, for example, collaborated with this friend I just mentioned about, because Raymond wanted to talk about staying motivated and positive and fit and looking great all the time, looking dapper all the time, and this influencer sort of fit in perfectly.
Super. So there we are. So we are 3 p.m. sharp now. Thank you so much, Apaksh. Like, that was crazy lot of information where influencers would love to hear that. Hey, thumbs up for all the knowledge and info, like extensive knowledge which Apaksh has shared for all of us. Super.
Thank you so much, Harsha. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. I had a great time talking. I hope you guys enjoyed the session.
Yeah, I've shared the One Impression link, so you can reach out to them from the website. You'll find the contact email ID over there itself.
In fact, what I'll do is I will share the Google form link here of One Academy.
Sure.
Uh, if any of you are interested in being a part, you could just fill it up, and we'd reach out to you and figure out if we can have you as part of our academy.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's a great opportunity for all the influencers who have exclusively attended this workshop. Super.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you, Harsha.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. You have a good day. Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.